Hello and welcome. I am the Rambling Director, and today we're going to be doing a little bit of a commentary on a really great movie from 1959, The Bat! Gotta love that music. This, of course, as it says, stars Vincent Price, my horror movie boyfriend, and Agnes Moorehead, an actress who I've really always loved, even, when my only exposure to her was the Looney Tunes. Well, I shouldn't say that, because I've been watching classic movies since I was a very young child, so I probably was exposed to Agnes Moorehead many, many times and just didn't realize, didn't put it together. Man, isn't that... Thank you, Louis Forbes, for your amazingly jazzy score. It has little, themes in it of horror, but it's so jazzy and funky. Oh, yeah. I could get down to this at a Halloween party, couldn't you? Oh, yeah. Rock on, Crane Wilbur. Rock on.
This is the Oaks, a house in the country which I rented for the summer.
Now, this, in the strictest sense, really isn't that much of a horror movie per se, but I wanted to start off Halloween with it because it's really a film that I greatly respect.
I brought a staff of servants.
Look at what a great miniature. Look at what a great miniature that is. It looks so good. I mean, you can tell that it's not quite, it looks sort of like an effect, but no more so than when you see a CGI building. I really do enjoy good miniature work.
Is the car ready? It's at the door.
Look, Miss Cornelia, them servants you brought from the apartment are talking about walking out on us.
Really? Well, I know they don't like it here, but I didn't think it was that bad.
Well, they've been hearing things about the killer that the police call the Bat and the murders that he committed here this past winter. Now people are saying that he's back again.
Well, how can they be sure of that? Has he committed another crime?
No, not yet, but that ain't saying that he won't.
That ain't saying that he won't.
Here's something else. You've heard about the bats they have here. Animal bats, the kind that fly.
Don't get confused. We're not talking about the murderer bat anymore. We're talking about the animals now. What a great picture. I love that magazine with the most fear-mongering headline ever. Warning, bats! You might notice that the dialogue in this, it sounds very exposition heavy, I guess would be the way to put it. It's very front-loaded. There's a lot of talking. This is what Alfred Hitchcock would have referred to as talking head pictures, like talking head films, where people are just kind of talking at each other. It's not very cinematic, and the reason that is actually because the Bat, this version of the Bat, is based on a play. The very first version of the story was a play, which in turn I believe was based on a short story. This is maybe the third adaptation, I think. Third adaptation of this. The first version being a silent film.
Thanks again.
Miss Van Gorder.
How do you do, Mr.
Notice that they held on Warner, the chauffeur. They held on him for a while. And that's because this is not, purely a cinematic film. It is a lot of talking, but it does do a really good job of working in some cinematic clues, some purely cinematic clues that are just visual.
I was surprised because Mr. Fleming said he would never rent it.
Oh? Well, I rented it from his nephew, Mark Fleming, who has the real estate office here. He said his uncle would be gone the entire summer.
That's right.
Agnes Moorehead, the voice she uses in this is sort of like the quintessential female detective from the 30s. The problem is this movie was made in almost the 60s. So her acting, as well as almost everybody in this, really, except for Vincent Price, which is only because Vincent Price can elevate the crappiest of material into the finest of art. But everybody's acting in this film, it really comes across as very old-fashioned. It's very over the top.
Scared the hell out of me.
Scared the hell out of me.
I really mean that Miss Corney killed them off in that one.
When you refer to my books, please don't call me Miss Corney.
That's a great line, isn't it?
Yes. Excuse me, please. Don't be strangers now.
No, we won't.
But don't be strangers. Introduce yourself once in a while. Then we won't be strangers anymore. Right, Georgie?
I'm sure
Now, Lenita Lane, who plays Lizzie, I really enjoy her acting as well. It's very over the top as well, but I really just love it. Oh, here it is.
I welcome our most distinguished visitor back to Zenith.
Oh, that's very charming, but,
Lieutenant Anderson.
Lieutenant Anderson, of course. Chief of Detectives of the Zenith Police Department.
Ah, Chief of Detective of the Zenith Police Department. I'll file that into my list of suspects for the mystery I'm about to unravel.
Not bad for a
The guy who
policeman.
plays Lieutenant Anderson is Gavin Gordon, and he is, I believe he actually started back in the silent era, if I'm not mistaken, and his acting in everything is very, very, very fun to watch. He's got a great sense of dramatic presence, and he's sort of like, as I said, everybody's acting is a little bit over the top, and that's how I actually like acting. I prefer acting be very emotive, because that's the history of acting. Used to, actors had to emote, unlike today where you can just stare blandly into the camera and whisper your lines, and that's acting. Back then, you had to actually emote. You had to give a damn about what you were going to look like on film.
They were kept in our special vault. Mr. Fleming and I are the only officers of the bank who have
Now, what he's talking about here is the fact that a large amount of money, I think it's $1 million, if I'm not mistaken, has been stolen in liquidatable assets. Liquidatable? You know what? I don't English very good, but, and it's all been stolen, and the only other person who has access to it is one of the owners of the bank, Mr. Fleming, who we're about to meet in a minute.
Can't be reached by phone.
I don't actually know if these two actors are related, but both Flemings look very similar, like they're related. There he is, my horror movie boyfriend. Hi, Vincent.
What is it?
This scene, I would not be surprised if Quentin Tarantino had not seen this scene when he was a child, because
I thought I heard someone on the path.
it feels very Tarantinian.
Guide of ours.
Oh, Sam won't
And this is why I said it's not purely a visual movie. It is still sort of based on a play.
5 will get you 10. Sam
But
has a message.
honestly, so much is visually established in these shots, and you're not even noticing all of the stuff they're establishing that they're going to use later in this scene.
Doctor,
Yes, John.
what would you do for $500,000?
Anything short of murder.
Why not murder?
Too messy.
Too great a risk?
That is a fantastic
Yes.
line, because it tells you so much about who he is as a
$1 million from the
person.
bank. Well, I'm not kidding. I embezzled it.
Not that I think you wouldn't do it if you thought you could get away with it.
I got away with it.
This also tells you a lot about their
I'm not
friendship.
talking
The fact that
about currency.
they clearly
I took negotiable
are not
securities that
totally,
could be converted
you
into
know,
cash.
they're not totally trusting of each other.
In tens, 20s, and hundreds.
Well, I'm your doctor, not your lawyer. Why tell me this?
You'll find out why.
Polishing that
Who's gonna take the blame
gun,
for the robbery?
great bit of
Bailey,
foreshadowing.
the cashier. They'll never suspect me.
I like Bailey.
Well, so do I. I love the guy. I gave him his first chance.
He has a lovely little wife.
Charming girl. Was the best man.
Where's the $1 million?
In my family's tomb in Zenith. In the crypt with my father's casket.
I don't buy that, John.
No?
This is great. Watch how the dynamic
You forget
shifts.
that I had you in charge when you were a very sick man. When you raved in delirium. And I heard you talk about a
This
hidden
great
room.
shot, and they just established
Where
something
could you
else.
Put a hidden room except in that mansion you built. That white elephant you call the Oaks.
Look, everyone knows I have a bad heart.
What a beautiful gun.
Who would doubt it if you wired the bank directors?
Don't Mexican carry that, you're gonna shoot your balls
I
off.
had fallen from a great height here in the woods. That I was badly smashed up. You could ship the body back for burial and instruct them not to open the casket due to the condition of its contents.
Well, you realize, of course, that we'd have to have a body to put in that casket, which means that we'd have to deal with an undertaker at this end.
Of course.
Well, where do we get a body?
Couldn't we provide one of our own? How about Sam?
Notice the shift in dynamics and how the camera
Sam weighs about
changes
as much as I do.
to this tight
Practically
close-up.
a hermit. He wouldn't be missed
The
for a
first
long
one like
time.
it in the scene, and it's right when we realize this guy is
Local undertaker
so
would know him.
serious that he is
Not with any
willing
look as if
to
he's a
transition very
serious actor.
casually into suggesting murder.
Bailey's going to take the blame. Why do you have to do this?
The jury might acquit him. In that case, I'd be a logical suspect. I could disappear, of course, but it's safer if they think I'm dead.
Oh, great bit of suspense, showing us the forest fire that's just started. But the characters aren't aware of it.
Too bad.
Seriously, lovely gun. Really nice.
You mean you'd kill me?
What else could I do?
See,
Now that I've told you about the million.
this is
I tell
a
you, we
wonderful
got
setup.
nothing
The
in.
dynamics just keep shifting in the scene.
If you can find another body instead of Sam's, it's all right with me. There's $500,000 in it for you.
I'll do my best.
I smell smoke.
Check this out. Just watch it. This
Why,
shocked
what's that
me.
noise?
I physically went, oh my gosh, the first time I saw this. It's so sudden.
The woods are on fire. It's coming this way. We've got to get out of here. Out the back way.
We will. As soon as I provide that body we were talking about.
Whoa! Check that out! Was that not amazing? No talks, no big dramatic monologue. I mean, like, you just don't expect it. You would think in a scene like that, that he would give some sort of talk or, like, some sort of, like, zinger, you know? But no, he just very simply says, as soon as I provide that body we're talking about, bang! It just, man, what a great... Oh, jeez Louise, that scared me.
Lizzie, is that you?
Yes, Miss Grady. There's a storm coming up, and it's gonna be a snorkel.
There's a storm
Hear
a
me
brewing.
close the door
It's
off
a
the hinges.
coming.
That noise blew my game higher than a kite. I think I've lost some of the cards.
Oh, wow.
I think I've lost some of the cards. Now, something you'll notice if if you're not really used to it, you may be noticing some of these, specifically the actresses, talk with kind of this odd accent. And that's actually because a lot of the actors and actresses at the birth of talking cinema began to learn a very neutral accent, which is called North Atlantic. It's a North Atlantic accent, and it's sort of the colloquial accent that most people in older films have. Now, the reason for this is because it was very important that people sound as interesting as they looked. Used to with a silent movie, you just needed an actor who could express themselves visually. But once talking pictures came around, you had to be able to carry a movie through dialogue and visuals. So that's why you get people like Humphrey Bogart with his incredibly intricate voice that nobody can imitate, not even me. Here's looking at you, kid. And people like Jimmy Stewart, who just have these incredibly unique voices, and you just can't imagine cinema without them. You know, because you had to have a unique voice. A lot of people just didn't have distinct voices, so a lot of acting coaches would teach you this North Atlantic accent, which is why you have people like, I think like the quintessential North Atlantic sort of accent is Katharine Hepburn, of course, with the way she says darling. She talks a little bit like this, and it's not really English, but it's not really an American accent either, you know. I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about, darling. You know, where the R's are very open like a British accent, and yet it still sounds very distinctly somewhere in America. I like it a lot.
But this Bat feller they keep talking about in the paper,
This Bat feller that they keep talking, she's trying to be a female Jimmy Stewart, actually, now that I think about it. I quite like Lenita Lane. She's got a great voice.
What are they trying to do? Drive people away from this part of the country?
Why, what does it say about the bat?
Specialty seems to be killing women. My goodness, 2 of them in one night. All his victims died the same way, like their throats had been ripped open with steel claws.
Who were the 2 that he killed in the same night? Was one of them Catherine Eddowes,
I'll
possibly?
have to try it sometime.
Oh, bad rambling director. Bad rambling director. Stop it with your Jack the Ripper. I think that was it, wasn't it? I think it was Catherine Eddowes and Liz Stride that got killed in the same night. I could be wrong with that. You know, that door really needs a new latch.
Just the wind banging a door. Pay no attention to it.
It's just the wind banging a door. I like that they established them as being a little bit jumpy.
For a moment after she was found, described the bat as a man without a face. Honest, Miss Corny, I think that woman must have been exaggerating.
She must have been exaggerating. The fact that they set them up as a little bit jumpy is really, really great because it sort of establishes that the things that you see and hear are not necessarily going to be the actual murderer. And that's what sort of helps heighten some of the suspense. You know, again, like I said, this film is sort of old-fashioned for the time it was made, and yet they actually do a really good job of building some genuinely good scares and suspense with it.
And that, I suppose, is the cat dropping its dentures.
That's such a good line.
But I think it's something should be looked into.
Now, oh, check this out. This is really, really great. And coming up here in just a minute. I love, especially sort of older to middle-aged women in old movies. And I'm going to show you why in just a second. Just keep it in mind, because I will bring it back up.
Let him sleep it off.
They don't take crap off of anybody.
The power lines don't go down, put the lights out. Now, we'll check the windows in the living room and draw the curtains, and then we'll go to bed.
Yes, ma'am. I won't be a minute.
Watch this, watch this. Man, that's so creepy. Now, that being said, I am not sure why he didn't just attack. Perhaps, though, he didn't realize there was more than one woman in the house. Took him off guard.
To turn it on again. He's out there. He was coming in. He might have got you.
Oh, but he didn't, and he's still out there, thanks to you. Now, you hurry now, and we'll call the police.
No, I won't leave you, Miss.
Are you okay?
Come on, we'll call the police. Everything's gonna be okay. No, don't call the police. Okay. I won't leave you. The flibbity gibbet are you talking about, woman?
Operator, give me the police department, please.
Zenith Police Department.
This is Cornelia Van Gorder. I'm living at the Oaks.
We know about that, Miss Van Gorder.
We know that you live in your fancy schmancy house. Oh, what a great shot.
You're not alone there, are you? What about your servants?
Well, I have none except my chauffeur.
Now, I'm not entirely sure. Oh, there you go, pointing out the chauffeur again. You gotta just make sure you keep him in mind, because there are red herrings, and they're, very early they establish the fact that there may be, there may actually be multiple people who are the Bat, and that's one of the things that makes this film so much fun. And yeah, again, much like Miss Cornelia, the film is corny, but it is also a lot of fun to watch.
Well, nothing can get at us in this room now. This door seems good and solid.
Like the door to a tomb.
I always liked something about this movie, that his razor blade there, or glass cutter, whatever you would call it, it slips a little bit. And in these, movies, wherever you see that used, particularly spy movies, it always seems to just go around flawlessly, and boop, out comes the glass. It's sort of nice to see somebody slip a little bit once in a while.
No bolt. Well, that's not so good.
Don't worry. I mean, he's a bat. So it's not like he can climb up the wall and hang upside down through your doorway.
What's that? That, my good woman, is a booby trap. If anybody tries to open this transom, this will be knocked off, and we'll hear it fall.
That's not really a booby trap. It's more like a primitive burglar alarm, really. A booby trap would be more something that would actually trap your victim. I like a lot that claw is just so unique to this film, and that he only has it on one hand. I have to think that this claw probably had some hand in it inspiring, like, a young Wes Craven. I just have to think he must have seen this and remembered that. Although it's possible that, could have been any number of things that inspired it. Or maybe nothing inspired it, but it's just such a unique piece. I actually think it also looks quite a bit like the gloved hand in the old film, The Cat Creeps. Watch this, what a great shot. Granted, I think their reactions would have been a little bit more... Check this out, watch this! Yeah, look how badass that is.
Yes?
Miss Van Gorder?
Yes?
Zenith Police Department. There's a police car just outside your house, and the officers in it have reported that there's no sign of a prowler anywhere on the grounds.
Oh, the man's inside now. He's in the hall, just outside my bedroom. Have your men break through the kitchen door and search this place from top to bottom.
Okay, Miss Van Gorder. Sit tight.
I will. I have a gun, and I know how to use it.
Oh yeah, now that's what I like. A woman with a gun and a no-nonsense attitude. Granted, her firearm safety could use a little bit of work. She pointed that at Lizzie like 3 times.
Lizzie, the police did a good job. They couldn't find anybody in here.
Now see, that's something that is not very cinematic. That's more sort of the thing you'd see in a play, like a blackout, and then the characters just say, oh, the police are done looking, because we didn't want to cast a bunch of police officers. There is something to be said about superfluous scenes, of course, but I think you could have actually used that to build some of the tension. So the fact that they just cut straight to the police have already left and searched the place, I do think that could have been done better. Now look at this little guy. He's so cute. I mean, clearly that's a fake bat he just put in. But it's supposed to be a real bat. I think it's really cute that he just carries a bat around in his pocket at all times. So that's a pretty good way of building suspense, because you think he's going to come through that transom and, maybe lean down and open the door, or maybe even just crawl down through it. But no, he puts in a little bat just to scare the crap out of him.
It flew in that closet.
Oh, good gracious, Lizzie, you're right.
Miss Corny, I have rabies now. I do love the fact that she was able to, yeah. Thank you for your modesty, Agnes Moorehead. Thanks. Just keep pulling that thing up.
Operator, will you get me Dr. Malcolm Wells' office, please? So I don't know his number, and I have no phone book up here, but this is an emergency. Will you connect me with his office, please?
Oh, dear, I'm going to get the rabies.
Hello? Hello?
Get the rabies. I read about it on the internets.
But if you'll give me your name and number, I'll try to locate it.
Well, this is Miss Van Gorder of the Oaks. My maid has just been bitten by a bat that may be rabid.
I know at the time that this was more common, but it does seem kind of like name-dropping, doesn't it, when she goes, "This is Miss Cornelia Van Gorder. I'm living at the Oaks, on the right side of the tracks."
Oh, I hope it's not a delivery. A baby, they can be terribly complicated.
It never bothered me none.
Oh, Lizzie, you never had a baby.
Of course I didn't. That's why they never bothered me.
This movie has such great humor, and I really mean that. It has great, great humor. Oh, he's back. He's back, my horror movie boyfriend. Oh, not you, Gavin Gordon. I like you too, but I'm talking about Vincent Price. Please don't get in the middle of our what was this? 60-year difference romance, please. Between the time this movie was made and now, there's probably more than 60 years difference between me and Vincent Price. Probably good, I don't know, maybe 100 years by now. I actually don't know when Vincent Price was born, to tell you the truth. I like this. I like that it sets up Lieutenant Anderson going around really seeming very suspicious of Vincent Price, and you're going to see in a little bit why that is so important to make clear that he is very suspicious of Vincent Price. And of course, Vincent was probably the biggest name in this film, and so you would just immediately assume, sort of like a Psych episode, he must be the villain. He's the most prominent person in the film.
Are you there, Dr.
Oh,
Wells?
operating system, don't bother me now. I'm rubbing a bat's face on a piece of glass. It's how I get my kicks.
Are you there, Dr. Wells? This is the operator. Your call service is on the wire. It's an emergency.
This is Dr. Wells.
The good old days when you could just take a phone off the hook and people wouldn't bother you.
Hello. I was just doing an experiment. I left the receiver off.
That's what I thought, but I kept trying. Miss Van Gorder at the Oaks called and said that her maid had been bitten by a bat, and she's afraid it might be rabid.
What? Oh, all right. Tell her I'll be right over there.
I like to think in movies, you know, have you ever noticed that people just hang up so abruptly in movies? Like, tell her I'll be right over there. Hang up the phone. The person's like, okay, would there be any other specific message that you need me to give? Like, you know, instructions? Do you want to know about the situation so that maybe you can give a better incentive for them to, like, you know, be preparing before you get there? Dr. Wells? Hello? Dr. Wells? Are you there? I mean, you know, it's like in detective movies, you know, a lot of the time they're on the phone and they have like a realization, they just hang up the phone, and you know in real life, the person they're talking to would call them back and be like, hey, like, dude, you hung up really suddenly, are you okay? And then the detective would be forced to say, oh yeah, I was just trying to be dramatic, sorry, I didn't mean to worry you. Now, you're going to see a lot more of his, how big and funny Gavin Gordon can be. Dun dun dun! I always thought this was a very interesting moment, because it's not really explained what that is or what that's about. We can just assume that Dr. Wells, you know, with his interest in bats, must just, you know, have like a weird religion where he worships bats or something. I'm not really entirely sure what the film was trying to say with that little moment.
Oh, I'm so glad they found you, Doctor.
Well, I reached my office shortly after you called. How is your maid? Is she in any pain?
No, she doesn't seem to be.
Did the bat get away?
No, I believe it's still in my bedroom.
Oh, good. I want to examine it.
Oh,
There you go, Miss
your
Allen.
bedroom is just one George Lucas wipe away.
Doctor, have I got the rabies?
I'll tell you better after I've examined the bat's brain under a microscope.
That thing's got a brain?
Oh, you'd be surprised.
What a great bit of foreshadowing.
I think
Because that's showing that you know, oh, this person is way more clever than they might at first seem. And that's a brilliant move.
Well, my dear lady, I don't want to alarm you, but...
Oh, well, after tonight, nothing can alarm me.
Yes, I understand. It must have been terrifying. So many unexplainable things have happened here. There's something about the place. Your servants must have sensed it when they walked out on you. An apprehension of disaster. Well, let's see.
Vincent Price can take the simplest, most expositionary lines and just turn them into solid gold. He literally had the Midas voice, you know? Like, every line he said just was, you know, 24 karat great, you know? Doesn't matter how silly the line might have been.
I've been worried about him.
Well, you should be. From his appearance, I'd say that he doesn't have any infection. In which case, you've had a narrow escape.
I'm just gonna shut him up in my
One
bag.
of those tablets I left
Animal
you, and I'll
abuse,
guarantee
thy
you
name
a
is
good
Dr.
night.
Wells.
I'll drop in on you tomorrow.
Watch this, watch this.
Everything, Doctor.
He actually acts as if he had to throw those in before the bat got
You
out.
can, but do let me help.
Now that's a little thing,
Don't forget that once
but
I'm
it
gone, you'll have to
really
climb the
shows,
stairs
like,
alone.
you know, the
Oh,
care
I'm
he
all
took.
right. I'm armed now.
Can you shoot one of those things without shutting your eyes?
Oh,
That's
Doctor,
sex.
there's every
Actually,
book
sorry,
I've ever
that's
written.
sexist.
I don't write about things I'm unfamiliar with.
Oh, that was hot.
Lock the door, Lizzie.
I don't care how old she was. It was hot.
Accident?
No, the wind blew him down.
Oh.
I think.
Did you know that young Mark Fleming leased you this house without notifying his uncle?
No, I didn't.
Well, it doesn't matter now. John Fleming is dead and Mark's his heir. But if John were alive, he would warn you to leave here, Miss Van Gorder.
Really?
He would tell you to leave this place and take your mangy dog with you, too.
Who ever lived in it. Well, good night.
Good night, Doctor.
Check this out.
Who's out there?
Nobody you need worry about, Doctor.
Oh, it's Andy.
That's right. Oh, good evening.
Now, just check out how he acts around Vincent
Somebody
Price.
sick here?
My maid was bitten by a bat.
A rabid bat?
Well, I'll know for sure when I get to my lab. I caught the bat.
It happened indoors.
He sounds so proud of it. I caught the bat. He's so proud.
You ought to know.
I spotted this hole in
You
the
want to
wall
know?
and I got there.
He turns into William Shatner from time to time. He's like talking normal, then he accuses Vincent Price, and he suddenly turns into William Shatner.
Miss Van Gorder told me that she phoned headquarters at Zenith.
Yes, I phoned twice. The second time was after the prowler got in the house.
Weren't headquarters, Andy?
No, but they contacted me.
An officer came and searched the house from top to bottom, but they couldn't find the bat.
You better have this window fixed tomorrow.
Oh, yes, I certainly shall.
I'd better be going. I'm due in surgery at 8 o'clock in the morning. Good night.
Good night, Doctor.
There will be a man patrolling the grounds all night, Miss Van
Oh,
Gorder.
thank you.
And nobody inside, Andy?
Why should there be?
Well, how do you know
What's
but
this?
what the bat is hiding somewhere in the house?
I'm quite sure he isn't in the house, Doctor. Not now. Good night.
Now, okay, as funny and somewhat cheesy, but also kind of awesome as those lines are, really think about it. If you were a person who was actually suspicious that somebody was a mass murdering, serial killer, would you ever make it that clear that you suspected them? You think somebody is the sort of person who would slash your throat and rip out your larynx, and you're telling me you're going to stand there and go, I'm quite sure that they're not in the house. Not anymore.
New deal. How do you like
There's a file cabinet in the middle of that room.
Are you squandering your inheritance?
I know he's
Got it, yet.
actually, moving into this office, but that thing just looks so out of place in that position, doesn't it?
We can't find it. No kidding.
Oh, all Uncle John had in his bank account was a couple of $100. And his safe deposit box was empty.
If we don't find that missing million, mine will be empty, too.
That missing million.
Well, all my savings were invested in Zenith Bank stock. The examiners won't certify the bank is solvent until those stolen securities are found. So the stockholders have voted an assessment that will wipe some of us out. It's a since those securities have been converted into cash. And if I can't find that cash, I'm sunk.
Well, where are you going to look for it, Andy?
Here in Zenith. Your uncle wouldn't take $1 million on a hunting trip, would he?
You suspect Uncle John? Why, Andy, he founded the Zenith Bank. That'd be like robbing the family tomb.
That is a great
You think he wouldn't?
couple lines, because it actually does, what would you really call it? The opposite of foreshadowing.
Didn't find any of Uncle John's fingerprints.
Because there is still the option that maybe he hid the money somewhere other than the house, and he did mention hiding it in the family crypt.
And they believe her testimony will have a powerful effect on the jury.
Oh, well, she has a powerful effect on me. Judy's a doll.
Here's the book you mentioned, Judy.
It's your newest one.
Yes, it's just been published.
You can have that copy if you wish.
Now,
Oh, it's a first edition.
they do something with this character, and when you see it, it may, especially if you're used to seeing older films, it may actually make you gasp. It made me kind of really taken aback, because they do not normally do stuff like this, even in movies approaching the 60s, 1959. And I know, again, like I said, this does seem old-fashioned even for 59, but it's still bizarre and daring that they did one of the things that they did with this film.
Chauffeur turned butler.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Play any part at a
You
moment's
see what they did there?
Did you,
They set up one of the guys that is a suspect. He becomes a butler just so that you can say, the butler did
Done
it.
it in 3 days.
The pipe is no longer leaking.
You mean it's dried up of its own accord?
No, not quite. I packed the elbow where the water was coming out.
Pack the elbow. Well, where did you learn how to do that?
Well, into each life a little rain must fall, and a careful man learns to keep himself dry. Now, is there anything else that you require, Miss Van Gorder?
No, not at the moment, Warner.
Thank you, madam.
Now there's a character.
If you are familiar with the Sherlock Holmes story, that may actually have made you think of a story called The Musgrave Ritual, in which there is a butler who is incredibly well read and well versed, and he's sort of like obviously had multiple other lives that he's lived in his lifetime, doing a bunch of other stuff, and that's what this character always makes me think of. The character of Warner, the chauffeur
Mr. Fleming prove his own
/
innocence?
butler.
Miss Van Gorder, can there be any doubt about it?
There will be when Miss Hollander testifies at Vic's trial.
Oh, I am so sorry. I think I just hit the desk. I hope that didn't register on the mic.
Judy?
Something I saw with my own eyes. She's not permitted to say what it was.
But I am allowed to say that I do know something that is going to change the course of this trial, and I'm allowed to say it to a group of people that could possibly use it against me, or maybe even murder me. I'm benign.
Getting caught in the act. Now, if I was writing this, instead of living in the middle of it, I'd hide it right here in this spooky old house.
Under a loose floorboard or up a chimney?
If Mr. Fleming
Vincent Price
had the nerve
talks
to steal $1 million,
his smoke out
he'd make
from
his
his
plan
cigarettes,
well
and it
in
makes him look like a
advance.
dragon. It is one of the most badass
I'd
things
say he'd
in
prepare
human
someplace to
history.
hide it. Possibly when this house was being built.
Oh,
Now, I really
he's so
think
subtle.
Price
My
from
gosh,
Mr.
he's
Fleming's
just one of my
schedule.
favorites. I love Vincent
I
Price.
wonder if he'd have the floor plan.
Look how he's holding his foot.
I'll ask him.
Yes.
Lizzie,
How funny!
will you
I've
bring
never
Mrs.
noticed that
Bailey
he
the
holds his
phone?
foot like that.
You
That
ask him
was really
now.
funny looking.
His number is Summit 7537.
Probably because Vincent Price is very tall.
Summit 7537.
This is really great because Vincent Price is one of those very few actors who can portray somebody who is hiding what they're thinking or what they're feeling, and he can hide it really well in a way that it's not like he's acting like he's hiding. He acts like a person who is actually hiding something. You know, where it happens to sneak through. You just can kind of tell.
Well, she suggested to me that your uncle might have hidden the bank loot
And that's
there.
hard to do because a lot of actors will act the situation rather than act the emotion. And so I really enjoy when I see an actor who can actually act the who can actually act the emotion
Well, I heard him
really
talk
well.
about it a good many years ago. I can't be sure of the exact location. Anyway, I don't think the old boy had the guts to steal $1 million. But if I find those plans, I'll let you know, Andy. Hello, Dale. Look, honey, I haven't seen those plans since I was a kid, but I'll come over tonight and maybe we can find them.
Thank you, Mark. We'll expect you.
That was almost a Hitchcock camera movement, and I like
They're
it.
here in the house somewhere. It's coming over tonight.
Well, that's good. Dale and Judy are my house guests for the weekend.
Miss Cornelia, why did you hold on to the tea cart and use it as a table? I didn't get a table. I had to hold it on my freaking thigh.
You know, if Judy's testimony is going to clear Vic Bailey...
That teacup was really hot.
Others may get the idea that there's buried treasure in this house. Don't even mention your testimony until you're actually on the stand.
Oh, I won't.
That's a smart girl, Judy. And a very lovely girl. Well, good afternoon, ladies.
Goodbye,
Doctor.
Dr. Will.
Come on, girls, let's go.
Don't tell anybody else. I want to make sure that I am the only person who knows, so that when you die, it doesn't look suspicious. One thing this film is really, really great at is, as I said, it builds suspense in a very modern sense. And for such an old film, and for a film that is so old-fashioned in so many ways, I really, really enjoy how wide the shots are and how unloaded the situation is. It's, I think I just accidentally quoted David Fincher by saying that, but it really, you know, there's something to be said about it. Like, a lot of movies would rely on very tight close-ups to build the tension in this sort of scene, and they do not at all. They're not afraid to give you this very open sort of proscenium look at everything that's happening, which really works in a movie that feels so much like a play.
I want you to work with me while I write the story of this fantastic criminal, the Bat.
I like that Cornelia she just assumes that she automatically has the rights to this whole situation. Like, yes, I'm going to write a story about this, darling. oh, well, Miss Cornelia, shouldn't you, talk to the police or, see about if anybody's already copyrighted it? No, darling, I am absolutely the center of the friggin' universe. I don't need to do that. Oh, look at what a great... Oh, look at what a great moment here. That is fantastic. Now watch this, watch this. Wow, what a shot! What a shot! Now notice that he strikes him across the neck and immediately grabs his collar up and we cut away. So, that was such a good way of getting around the censorship of the time by not showing any blood. And you're about to see another fantastic way in which they get around the censors. Remember, we've graphically described how he rips the throats out of his victims. And so we already have that in our mind. And so these really quick shots of the attack, it sells to us just how well they've covered their tracks.
Clock hasn't struck the hour in the last 10 years, if I'm to believe what Mark Fleming told me.
I love how she just knows that automatically. She just is the queen of exposition.
Really, very likely when she was dusting.
Wait a minute. Did you know there's a door in this paneling?
Did you know there's a door in this panel? Why would she have ever looked at that woman?
It opens to a secret passage. Well, certainly to a secret something. Who knows, girls? We'll be about to stumble on that missing million.
Now, here it is. Here it is. Watch this. It's just such a brief shot, but they use the shadows masterfully to get around the censorship codes of the time. So we're expecting to see his throat slashed open and, oh, look at that! That's fantastic. And because it's so quick, and remember back at this point, this was still at a time. I love Gavin Gordon. Look at that face. Oh my gosh, he's so creepy.
Okay. Proceeding to the Oaks.
This shot is important because, remember, we have to sell that everybody has an alibi. So it's all the more shocking as to, who did this and why they did it. I mean, we know the basic reason is going to have to do with that missing $1 million, but the exact motivations behind each character, because every character has a reason to steal this money.
That's his sign. We found it on the others he killed.
But yeah, I love how they get around that, because they couldn't show a ton of blood, and so they kind of, what would be the word? They kind of
back to the scene of his kills.
Allow you to fill in the blanks, quite literally.
That's who did this. The Bat.
He's so intense.
Who found Mark?
We all did.
That's who did
Dale
this.
And Judy and I.
The Bat.
Lizzie was in the dining room.
Or alternatively, it could have been the cat. Or the rat.
Patterson, you know, she worked for John Fleming.
I know her. Where were you, Mrs. Patterson?
In the kitchen, cleaning up. I cooked the dinner tonight.
What's this?
Did you know that the secret closet was here?
Did you know that the secret closet was here? He just turns into William Shatner half the time.
Found it, really. Noticed the clock had been moved and the door wasn't quite closed.
Okay.
Well, that rings a bell. Don't worry, I'm sorry in advance for that joke. I don't know why I made it. And of course, Vincent Price just happens to be wandering by. Actually, I'm kidding. It's because he's the mortician. But watch it. Once again, Lieutenant Anderson decides he's just going to openly state his suspicion of Vincent Price in front of a room full of people.
How long's he been dead?
Oh, I'd say about a half an hour. You believe it was the Bat?
That's the Bat's trademark.
Perhaps he's still in the house.
Watch this.
That's possible.
Why should he be?
Perhaps he's still in the house.
Because he's
It's
looking for something.
possible.
Like you, he believes it's here. Well, he's a persistent killer. I would advise you to get out of this house as quickly as possible, notwithstanding our expert police protection. Have you called the morgue?
They're on their way here.
Oh, good. I want to examine the body before they get here. May we take it into another room?
Yes, to the sunroom in the back.
Thank you. Give me a
Oh,
hand.
I'm sorry. I think I called him the mortician. He's not the mortician. He's Wow, that, you know, the medical examiner, there's a word for it, but I can't think of what it is.
Oh, Warner, where have you been?
Well, madam, has it been an accident?
Oh, yes, you would wonder what happened while you were gone, Butler.
The young man from whom I leased this place was killed here tonight.
They know who did it?
Well,
Of course they know who did it. It was you. You're the butler. Everybody knows you did it.
Miss Van Gorder, but I forgot my keys, and when I rang the bell at the kitchen door,
I also, I love how he immediately starts very casually giving his alibi, even though nobody asked for it.
Why'd you promote him?
But it's very difficult to find a butler. They don't like service in the country.
Have you been a butler before?
I've served in many capacities, sir, but this was my night off, and I forgot my keys.
I heard that part. What time did you leave the house tonight?
Oh, about 6:30. I had dinner at Wiley's Roadhouse.
Can you prove where you spent
I don't believe anybody dressed that sophisticatedly with an English accent had dinner at a place called Wiley's Roadhouse.
Very good, sir. I shall be in my room, Miss Van Gorder, if you need me.
Yes, Warner.
That's like seeing James Mason go into, like, Logan's Roadhouse. Are you kidding me? No. Come on.
I can't recall where or when, but I will.
Now, excuse me as I go back and interrogate that maid that we never saw before this scene. I'm sure she's the one who did it.
For fingerprints, taking photographs. But in the meantime, Mrs. Patterson, you aren't leaving the house tonight, are you?
No, Lieutenant.
Don't. I'll talk to you in the morning.
Yes, don't leave the house. I want to talk to you, maid, even though the killer was clearly a man, was clearly, like, in the 6-foot range, and you're shorter than a midget.
I was with Mark Fleming this afternoon when you talked to him about the floor plans of this house. I heard him tell you he was coming here tonight.
Dale called him at my request. She told me he was coming.
My gosh, Agnes Moorehead is just like the exact opposite of Vincent Price, where he can make anything sound sly and casual. She makes everything sound extreme and very, very severe.
There are a few killers who kill for the fun of it. The Bat very likely is a mental case, and I'm convinced that his crimes are motivated by his mania for personal gain. There's $1 million.
Nothing he just said made sense. The Bat is clearly a mental case, and I'm convinced that he is only killing for his own personal gain. What? You just go through the reasons why the man is just insane. Are you telling me this guy, the real actual killer, the Bat, he is slashing the throats of women in the most brutal way possible, just so that he can, like, rob them? That's sort of like that theory that, like, Jack the Ripper was, like, stealing these worthless nickel rings from prostitutes, and he was killing them in, like, these unimaginably violent ways just so he could steal, a quarter from them, you know? Come on.
He could be anybody. So far, there are clues to his identity, but nothing we could take before.
I realize that's not the most sound argument, but that is my theory. The theory of, come on.
He may be a merchant, lawyer, doctor, scientist. One of the pillars of his community.
No, that is a great little bit of foreshadowing. Although, you're going to learn later why it's funny that he would be the one to give us that foreshadowing. Because why would he tell them that? Again, if you haven't seen it, you're probably not going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But trust me, it is weird that he said that line. Even though it's a great piece of foreshadowing. Well, how do you like that? They did actually cast some police officers. I thought they were just going to have Agnes Moorehead laying in bed again saying, "Oh, did you see them carrying out the body?" And it's like, no, I would have liked to have seen it. Thank you for showing it to me.
Poor Mark.
Yeah, it's a pity. So young. Well, Doctor, do you agree it was the Bat?
In my report, I shall say the death was caused by the same technique used in the other killings. A paralyzing blow to the throat, followed by severe lacerations of the jugular, resulting in excessive hemorrhage.
In a layman's language, he didn't know what hit him.
Oh, he knew. But he didn't have time to think about it.
My ears just orgasmed. That was so awesome. Wow. I mean, he could just make every line amazing.
Well, until I check the doors and windows, but I'll be back bright and early in the morning.
I'll be back. Don't you worry. I'll be back.
No gloom of night stays these couriers from the swift completion of their appointed rounds.
A lot of people are due for a shock when
You know, more people would actually trust the Postal Service if they used Vincent Price saying that slogan on every commercial.
Good night, Doctor.
I mean, you know. Back in the days when everybody knew that the post office sucked, before we had to pretend that it doesn't, otherwise you're not woke enough.
You know, I think we'd better let you get some sleep. Oh, Lizzie and I share this.
Those were the good old days.
You know,
Back in the days when it was okay to say, hey, I used UPS and FedEx because the post office sucks. Now if you say that, you know, you're automatically a white supremacist. I don't know how that happened. Guess it's because envelopes are white. That makes sense.
Quite sure. We'll be all right.
Well, if anything bothers you, you just sing out, and 2 strong women will come to your rescue.
Oh, nothing.
I love them. They're so great.
Good night.
Good night.
Don't worry, everything will be all right. Good night.
And then, years later, Susan Harris would be watching this movie and see those 4 women together and say, huh, I can make a show about that. 4 older women of varying ages living out their days in a large house that, thanks to the convenience of incoherent continuity, will become bigger or smaller depending on the needs of the episode.
I thought that when people died, their eyes closed, as in sleep. Don't think about it. I'll bet you're thinking about it. No, I was thinking of my poor husband sleeping in jail tonight.
Oh, you just have to make everything about you, don't you? Your husband, your husband. A great use of shadows, isn't it? I mean, like, man, I love very shadowy, noir-esque black and white. It doesn't matter how expensive or cheaply the movie was made, or how good or bad it was made. Any movie in black and white can look good if you just have very harsh directional light. In he sneaks. Zebat. Watch, actually, there's something great about black and white photography. I'm going to show it to you right here. I'll point it out. As far as the harsh directional lighting, it allows you to get some really fantastically dramatic shots. Like, the way his shadow is so very sharp and crisp on the walls. There's nothing, you know, muted about it like you would get in color photography where, dude, don't do that while it's plugged up. You're going to electrocute yourself. There's something really fantastic about the way that light, it gives very sharp. Look at the banisters. This is the sort of thing you can only do in black and white. In color, it just looks odd. There's a few exceptions. You know, people like Dario Argento who can do very beautifully colorful scenes and use this very harsh directional lighting. But the odd thing is that his scenes, though they're in bright colors, sort of have an essence of black and white about them. You know, sort of like you would see in silent films back when they used to dye whole films. And, you know, there's a funny story behind why we think about black and white films the way we do. And that reason is that although in the 20s it was very common to colorize films, there really wasn't a lot of black and white films back then. They would dye the films. So a night scene like this would probably be dyed blue or purple. And at a certain point around the time of the Great Depression, pretty soon after talkies came about, we saw films mostly just go to black and white, and we didn't see a lot of colored films for many, many years, although Technicolor already existed. You see that in beautiful films like Gone with the Wind, which is just, gorgeous color photography. But strangely, you just don't see a lot of color film, and the reason why is because it was the Great Depression. Color film was just too expensive. And the dyes to color film were also very expensive. And so you saw a lot of very just plain black and white. We're not going to do anything to it. And of course, the noir film really made it a staple that, a black and white film is like the classy, it's very crisp and sharp. Of course, you get a better quality of image in a black and white image as well. So they just left it black and white, no color. And that's why a lot of the black and white films that we know today, by the time they could do color relatively cheaply, they just kept doing black and white. It was just really pretty. Now we actually start to get a little bit of a plot hole here, because remember, Miss Cornelia she was very gun happy a minute ago, which, as I said before, I love that good, strong woman with her gun going after the bat, gonna just take on the world. But for some strange reason, throughout the entire climax of this film, she decides to forget that she has a gun in her nightgown the entire time.
Suppose that stolen money is in this house. Mark Fleming seemed to.
And it kind of makes me realize that's probably the reason why you don't see a lot of people with guns in horror films. Which is, statistically impossible in America. 50% of all people own guns. You're telling me in horror films that, it's always that 50% that does not own guns.
The house phone, and the outside phone wires have been cut, and we can't get help.
Where's that policeman?
Oh, I don't know. Something must have happened to him.
She's turning into Witch Hazel. Very slowly but surely, she's using her Witch Hazel voice. I don't know where that police officer is. I just need my Eye of Newt to make him go away. I will cut off the head of that bat and use it in a potion. Here we're coming up on what I said was a very daring move for 1959. And yeah, things like this had been done before, but it still was pretty uncommon. Even now in American cinema, it's pretty uncommon to see something this dark and this out of nowhere. Yes, wait here on the stairs. I want to go up there alone and face the killer. That way we're separate. It's easier for us to die. Wow, what a great shot. Did you see how that just panned around there? That was a very good movement. That's a little bit like a Hitchcock shot. The director is clearly, somebody who really knew what he was doing. I think it was Crane Wilbur. He actually also wrote the screenplay for this as well. Which kind of explains why some of the dialogue's a little bit clunky. I think he probably would have been better off sticking, maybe just sticking with the play dialogue, because some of it is just clearly sounds like it should be on stage. It does not sound like it has any place in a movie, especially in a movie made in 1959. So look at that. I mean, just fabulously framed shots. Now, I never understood why he didn't just kill her at this point, but I guess that he's just desperate to get away. Watch, look at this! Grabs her by the hair and slashes her throat open! It's so unexpected. Ow, that hurts me when it just throws that thing at his ear. And it just makes a thud. That guy, whoever the real killer is, you can already tell. There's your hint. It's somebody with an empty head. Thunk.
Give her to me. I'll look after her.
Give her to me. I'll look after her. She's dead. Lizzie, she's dead. What do you mean you're not gonna look after her? Yeah, and Detective Anderson just waltzes in.
Judy.
Yes, her name is Judy. You are correct, sir. She's kind of dead. You want to do something about it? It's sort of your frickin' job.
He caught her at the head of the stairs. We saw him rushing down the stairs as we came out of the room. I hurled that after him. I hit him, I believe.
I hit him, I believe. I couldn't quite tell, but he sounded a little bit like it was hitting drywall.
I saw a man outside in the grounds. I went out there and hunted him. I heard him in among the trees, and so I followed the sound of him.
I heard him in among the trees, so I followed him.
And then I lost him.
Thank you, Captain Kirk. So glad you could join us.
Life than have this happen to Judy. But I told you to stay in your rooms and lock your doors and stay there. What was she doing at the head of those stairs?
Now he's turning into Jimmy Stewart.
They heard a strange
What's he
noise.
doing at the head of those stairs? She's gonna end up in a wheelchair.
See what it was. Judy, I wish she wouldn't let me go out by myself. I made her stay on the balcony.
What about your new
Yeah, listen, honey, I'm not gonna lie to you. You got your friend killed. You should feel bad.
Oh, Mrs. Patterson.
Oh, yes.
Did you know what happened here?
No, sir, but I heard the screams. I went to call Warner. We have rooms on the same
Oh no, the Shatner is a disease. It's spreading. She's talking that way too.
If Mrs. Patterson heard the screams, Warner could certainly hear them.
You're quite right, sir. I heard them.
Oh, you did? And where were you?
Outside in the grounds.
Miss Holland has been murdered.
No.
So you're surprised. Shocked.
You're surprised, shocked, taken off guard, taken aback, slightly inconvenienced, were you?
I circle in my office with your picture on it. The Chicago police not so long ago were hunting for you in connection with the robbery.
You're right again, sir. And they found me and they tried me and I proved my innocence and I was acquitted.
That could have been a lucky break. Where were you when this
Now he's
happened?
channeling his inner Jim Carrey.
Outside.
That could have been a lucky
You doing
break.
that?
I was following you. I saw you leaving the
What
house and
human
seen that you were
being
hunting
talks
me, and I
like
thought you
that in a
might
real
need
life
some help.
situation?
Oh, yes, sir.
It could have
I
been a
followed
lucky
your
break.
flashlight down through the trees. Then it disappeared. And then suddenly, as I was staring out into the darkness, I was struck by something on the back of the head. The next thing I knew, I was lying on the ground. I realized I'd been knocked out.
I wish you had been knocked out. But then we'd have found you with your mask still on your face.
I wish you had been knocked out. Then we would have found you with your mask on your face.
Down those stairs after
What a
that
silly
No,
lie.
no, sir, you can't pin this on me. I'm not the Bat. I've never killed. I couldn't kill.
I want to overact too. I love that all of these people just randomly show up, including Lieutenant Anderson. Like, everybody just randomly shows up right at this point in time. It's really great because every movie has a big coincidence, except in the case of the Les Mis movie, in which case there was like 8. But in most movies, it's like one big coincidence, and this is this film's coincidence, and I love how it's used.
Well, Doctor, we have another case for the county coroner. You see, the Bat came back. Why did you come back, Doctor?
You see, the Bat came back.
Well, I had an accident about a mile down the road. The right rear wheel of my car came off and I plunged into the ditch.
I believe you.
This was the nearest house, so I came here to call for help.
I don't care if you look right at the camera when you say it, even though that's you really shouldn't have done that. I don't care. Anything you say, Vincent Price, I will believe you.
Physician, heal thyself. You must have been hit by something on the back of your head.
I told you I had an accident.
So you did, Doctor. So you did.
He thinks if he whispers his lines, it'll sound very intense. And luckily for him, he's right. It does.
We shall see.
So you did, Doctor. So you did.
Start a new chapter.
Now, if you'll forgive me, I'm going to see my friend Spock.
Lieutenant Anderson grilled us and ransacked the house from top to bottom. Warner was not placed under arrest, but his every move was...
Now, this is actually a very good way if you're going to cut a scene out and use exposition. This is a great idea. Have your writer dictating the plot points to the audience as if she's writing it in a book. That's a very unique way of doing it. It's not like, you know... Okay, I do think this is really weird, that they're telling this in flashback. The rest of the movie has not been in flashback. It's like, in the middle of the movie, with like 20 minutes to go, 16 minutes to go, we suddenly decide, we're gonna use a framing device. It's like in the middle of Titanic. The Titanic is like raising up in the air, all the people are screaming, everybody's running towards the back, and then we cut to modern day, and Bill Paxton is finding old Rose, you know, and like all of the stuff, and they found the drawing in the safe, and you're just sitting there like, what the friggin' crap is going on? And then they decide to cut back, and the ship breaks in two, and we continue the movie from there. That is exactly what is happening right now. How weird is that? And yet, strangely enough, I kind of respect it. It's such a strange thing for a film to do. I just have to give it some mad props for just doing something weird. Sometimes it's just not, even if it doesn't work, sometimes it's just nice to see a movie do something really, really bizarre. The music for this film, don't think I've commented on it yet, but something I really enjoy about it is that it's a lot like The Shining, where the music will react when nothing is happening, and it kind of gets you, gets you a little tense, because it's like, the music will react, and you think something shocking is happening, and then you realize, like, oh, absolutely nothing is going on. How strange. Oh, Warner, you do your thing. Goodness knows what that thing is, but I know you're doing it. Oh, this is just such a fun scene. I love this, because you see the Bat, and he's in Dr. Malcolm Wells' office, and you think, oh, okay, it turns out he is the Bat. But no, look at that. It's a suicide letter. And then Wells walks in, and it turns out he was framing him. Literally, all of the scenes with Dr. Wells one-on-one with another person is just incredible.
It's a bright idea to kill me in my own lab and let people think that I'm the Bat. But you had to kill me first. What was it to be, ambush? And clever as you are, you're not smart enough to do that. Nor were you smart enough to find the money, though you came quite close to it.
What a sweet little 38
but
special.
I know where it is. And when you're dead with that sign pinned on your chest, I'm going to collect it and live happily ever after. He destroyed himself. How true that will be.
Oh.
Well, goodbye, Bat. Here's a serum that will heal you whether you're rabid or not.
If only you had done like last time and just shot the guy without monologuing. I wanted you to win. I don't care how dastardly and evil you are. That really is the magic of Vincent Price. I don't care how evil he's being. Whatever, that gun was not remotely pointing at him when it went off. That totally could not have killed him. I guess he died of shock. The gun went off, and he was just like, oh, heart attack. That was a really, really cool little bit. This is something that we've lost, I think. Seeing that little line of the letter that says he destroyed himself, highlighted to emphasize that the person who is behind the Bat mask is, that he realizes, oh no, that, he could be right. Maybe I will end up destroying myself. I think, we've lost that with modern movies, because used to, there was a lot of directors, a lot of actors, cinematographers, who had worked on silent films, and in silent films, you had the ability to just very simply show something. You didn't have to work out, oh, I have to make up a scene just so I can establish this character. You just see a title card that's like Uncle Joe, and then you cut to a picture of Uncle Joe sipping his tea, and then you cut back to the plot, and you just established him with a little shot, But one of the great things about silent cinema is you had to show a thought process, and you had and literally show it. You couldn't have people talk about their emotions and feelings. I was thinking about that joke from Futurama, where he's like, you can't just have your actors say what they're feeling. That makes me feel angry. It's like that. You now, of course, we do that all the time, but back then you had to show a thought process. You didn't have a lot of dialogue, because you could only put so many title cards in a movie to show what people were saying. So you had to make people understand without speech.
Miss Cornelia.
Look how harsh that light is on her. That there must have been a light source behind that couch for it to be that bright on her.
Now, where would she be going at this time?
Now, that's another thing about black and white cinema, is because the shadows are so unrealistic, you are able to create a lighting arrangement that would make no sense in color. Where is the light source coming from that is casting the shadow on those stair banisters? You don't know. But I bet you didn't think about it. You probably didn't care. But if you saw that in color, you'd be you kind of like, it's supposed to be pitch black at night. Where's that light coming from? Because the truth is, you can't film light. You have to interpret light. You know, you're never going to see darkness, you know, so a character waking up in the middle of the night in the dark, because you can't film the dark. It's literally nothing. So you have to interpret the dark.
Wake up. What's the matter with you?
I don't know. My head hurts. My whole body's numb.
Here.
Oh, he's having an anxiety attack. Please, somebody play the anxiety game with him. I know he's been drugged, but when somebody wakes up and says, my whole body's numb, that's my first thought.
Hurry, will you? It's Lizzie. I'm terribly worried. I can't find Miss Cornelia anywhere, and something's happened.
There's something great about old school acting. So many people had a background in theater at that point in time that they... you know, I mean, for instance, Agnes Moorehead is a perfect example of this, you know. She and the Mercury theater troupe, you know, when they were in Citizen Kane, and all of these actors got established for the first time, Joseph Cotton, Agnes Moorehead, etc. They all had this very old school theatrical training because they were a theater troupe and they worked in radio where your voice had to be big and larger than life. And
we've got trouble here. Well,
so
for one thing, I was drugged. Yeah.
There's no way that there's anybody responding to him on the other side of that phone. It's like if I picked up the phone and was like, hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking. Hey, do you want to go and hang out tonight? Great, me too. Yeah, let's go do it. Like, the other person is totally not have time to respond to what he's saying.
What else did they tell you about it?
Oh, hurry, will you? We've got to find Miss Cornelia.
Okay. Lieutenant Anderson is out.
There's no way that room was airtight. She's supposed to be running out of air, but I don't believe it. There's no way that room is airtight.
Dr. Wells.
There's something queer about the killing of Wells, but headquarters won't talk about it.
Lizzie, Warner isn't in his room. There's no sign of him anywhere.
And I was supposed to keep an eye on that guy.
Where's Miss
I was supposed to keep an eye on that guy. It occurs to me I might be terrible at my job.
I certainly did.
Well, maybe Miss Van Gorder went outside.
Oh, she never would.
Maybe Mr. Van Gorder went outside. No, she never would. She's a recluse. She hasn't been outdoors in like 10 years. What a silly thing to say. She never would. Really? Never? What if the house was on fire? Never?
Oh, Miss Van Gorder.
And of course, she never would. She would never go outside. So what's the first thing we do? Let's go outside and look. Makes perfect sense, right? She never would. Let's go and look.
Miss Cornelia might have turned them on again. That's why we're going to look first. Come on.
Way to go, Lizzie. You just take charge. Also, if she was running out of air to the point where, like, she would actually be acting like that, I mean, she'd be dead by now. Or at least unconscious on the floor. There's no way she would still be going, you know? I mean, she'd be dead.
Cornelia. Miss Cornelia.
Yes, Lizzie. I'm here.
She's called her corny, like, for half of this, and suddenly when danger is going on, she's got to be very formal. Miss Cornelia, if these are the last words you hear, I want you to know I respected you. Here's to you.
Miss Van Gorder, what do we do now?
Over the mantel. There are 5 panels. Strike it with your hand.
I like that Lizzie actually counts them. There's 5 panels, and you can clearly see there are 5 panels, and she goes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Well, I'll be. There are 5 panels.
She said strike it. What difference does it make which panels?
Seriously, why is Lizzie the only one with any sense in this situation?
Look.
Are you telling me that the detective, with years of experience in all this, he can't figure out that if she says you strike the panel, like, that you don't have to sit around, like, trying to figure out which panel to strike? Just hit them all.
It's all right, dear. Lizzie's here.
I like that whenever a dead person or an unconscious person is in Lizzie's arms, she goes, it's okay, Lizzie's here.
Oh, no, you won't. I'm going to stay right here. I'm quite all right. Oh, how blessed it is to breathe without an effort. You know, no one knows how sweet the air can taste until someone shuts it off for a moment. That room is just like a box.
You know, that's how having asthma feels all the time. Nobody knows how precious air is until you shut it off.
There's a control panel behind this blueprint. Electric motor under the trap door here. Once the door is open, you can keep it that way.
Oh, brilliant detective work. But you couldn't figure out just to bop each one of the panels that are right in front of your frickin' face, yeah.
And it does.
I love the idea that he, like, thought it was booby-trapped or something. He's like, well, I can't just go hitting all of them. I mean, what if a bomb goes off? You just never know.
Well, it's quite a setup. Too bad we can't open that safe in the same way. Take an expert to crack this box or a shot of nitro.
Well, maybe.
A shot of nitro?
Had in mind.
How the hell are you gonna open that safe? You want to burn the whole house down, man.
One of us disappeared.
Well, we could get a safe expert to open the safe that way, but what the hell? Let's just throw some nitroglycerin at that bad boy.
Does he know what happened here tonight?
They got word to him. He'll be here any minute.
I really think it's brilliant how they film him. I mean, you know, that claw is very, very intimidating.
What's that noise? Miss Van Gordon, the garage is on fire.
Scott, look at that. Lizzie, put that light out in the other room. Now, where are you going?
To report the fire.
Well, you just stay right here.
Miss Van Gordon, the garage.
Well, let it burn. You watch the stairs.
Yes, let's just let the house burn down. Then the detective comes back in. Let the house burn down? Okay, I got some nitroglycerin. I just keep it in my pocket at all times.
Lights are out. He'll think his trick has worked, and we've gone. He'll be here any minute.
Well, so will Lieutenant Anderson.
I hope so, but the bat'll be here first. And he'll kill again if we're in his way. We've got to be as clever as he is.
I love Agnes Moorehead. She is such... I mean, that is like really, really powerful acting. Use your hands. Use every bit of your face. Get that point across. Act! My gosh, there's so many times in modern movies I just want to shake the person by the shoulders and say, emote, for the love of goodness, emote. I mean, there's a time for subtlety, but there is a huge difference between subtlety and doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's that very subtle sound design. See, if he didn't know which one to hit, he would have just hit all of them. Take notes, Detective Davenport.
But you'll be safer downstairs.
Hey, you shouldn't have done that. You're, gonna run out of air.
Right, but get out of sight.
I mean, seriously, are you telling me she had enough air for like half a minute, but he can close that thing and keep it closed like that entire time, and he doesn't run out of air? Oh, he got him. Shot me right in the upper shoulder chesticle area.
Let's face it, ladies, and get it over with. Others have seen my face before they died, but I'll have to deny you that pleasure. This would make a good scene for your book, Miss Van Gordon, but I'm afraid you'll never write it.
It's funny, though, he starts using... Oh, wow! What a shot!
That is Warner. I could tell.
That was Warner, I could tell. No, ladies, actually, I just saved your ass, you ungrateful swine. I demand a pay raise for the fact you just said out loud that you thought I was a murderer. Gosh, what a dick move.
I was headed for a plane, but halfway to the airport, I changed my mind and came back.
I was fleeing the country on the off chance I might be wrongfully accused. Oh, watch this, watch this! Check this out! Da da da! It's Anderson! The whole time! They just M. Night Shyamalan your ass! That is so good! Imagine the twist ending of Now You See Me, if it actually worked. That's what they just did, and it was so freaking awesome!
We found the money in it. A little over $1 million in 10s and 20s and 100s.
And see, we wrap up the story with this nice narration. A shame that we didn't open with her dictating.
with all his ill-gotten gains invested in bank stock. It's rather a clever way to hide stolen money. In the open, as it were.
In the open, as it were.
Respectable.
And so respectable.
But don't try it.
But don't try it.
No matter how clever you are, you can't hide murder.
You can't hide murder. Unless you're one of the millions of people who've gotten away with murder, you know. I mean, then you can hide it all you want. But don't risk it. Don't risk it. Take it from me. That's the Rambling Director's endorsement. Do not attempt murder. And that's it. Now, I know she actually did open the film narrating, but they didn't show her dictating, so I just don't think that counts. Anyway, that was The Bat from 1959. Just a fantastic movie. One that it's such a fun movie to watch. It's a great little detective story, a great mystery. It's corny and silly, but that's part of the fun. And so many of the actors are just clearly having so much fun and so happy to be there, you know? And I just highly recommend it. It's public domain. It's available on YouTube. You can go watch the whole thing yourself without me babbling over top of it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And happy Halloween. We'll continue with some more Halloween scary flicks as we go forward for the rest of the month. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!